Laughing Dad. No, great, because we're live. And it is Tuesday. What day is it, guys?
Tuesday. Every Tuesday.
Tuesday. It is every Tuesday today. And it is Tuesday, the 23rd of March. We are sitting here watching. Should we just wait for John to finish up his setup?
I've just made sure that all our followers on Clubhouse know that we've got a VIP in there.
Because we are live, and it's 7:01. Sorry for the slight delay. We had some technical difficulties. Again, that wasn't me. In fact, it wasn't even John that time. But tonight, it is Anthony Baker here. I am joined, as always, by the wonderful, the illustrious, the special John Fuggles. And John, welcome. How are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. Interesting day. So, we had a conversation earlier by chance, and I just rang her up and said, what are you doing at 7 o'clock? She thought it was a hot date, so she's obviously disappointed that she's got to spend some of the evening with you now.
Oh, okay, fantastic. Well, hopefully that'll bring a little bit of joy. And we're joined by Vidya Bellur.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Vidya, we have just met. To be honest, this is us having a first conversation. So I'm actually massively intrigued. I've had a look at your stuff online. Mm-hmm. Could you please give us a little bit of a rundown of yourself and why we're talking to you this evening?
Well, you tell me why you're talking to me, but actually I'm a therapeutic coach and mentor. I help people when they're stressed out, anxious, they tell themselves they're anxious, burnt out, and just struggling a little bit now and again. So yeah, I help people get out of their own funk, if you like.
Perfect. So if you can just leave me your telephone number after this, I'll pass it over to and that's wonderful, because let's just paint a little bit of a picture here, guys. And I'm not going to get too morbid on what we're doing tonight, but a friend of mine, someone that's been a friend of mine for a really long time, actually my wife's sister's ex-boyfriend, really sort of ingrained in the family, took his own life on Friday night. It was local to us. It was a huge shock to everybody that was involved. Just recently lost his dad. He his life hadn't necessarily changed. I mean, it changed slightly across time, but it got me really, really thinking about, and we're not going to talk too much about that, and we're not going to look at the personal aspect of this, but we all work in jobs. We've all got jobs, work in different capacities. We've all got them working across, different platforms. I would like to spend the evening tonight, if it's okay with you guys, looking at mental health in the workplace, not as a instruction for what people should do, but more of a platform for us to be able to talk about it. I think that's important. John was one of the first people that I spoke to after it, and it was pretty emotional at that time. And I think you need support from people, but it always comes from areas that you're not necessarily looking for it. So, that's kind of the piece I'm going to sort of put on that and leave on that. And there are some subjects that we want to talk about tonight, and we want to do kind of trying to keep it entertaining, because we don't want people thinking, oh my God, I'm going to go and cry in the corner. I'll just turn my screen off if I'm going to do that. But and we've got you on tonight as well, Vidya, is that, I think that you're going to bring a different perspective to this, and hopefully the viewers of this is live, by the way, guys, so you can, across all of our platforms, you can log in and you can add your 2 cents, or if you've got a subject or you want us to talk about, or if it's something that really hits home, please do. Also, our contact details, they'll be shared after this, so you can follow up. It is 30 minutes tonight. We do this every Tuesday night. This subject, like I said, has been really, really close to home, but also I've been finding over the last couple of days that my current personal situation needs potential looking at, which is something that I've done with some friends and with family and so on and so forth. So anyone else got anything that they would like to add to start off with before we get properly involved?
Well, the only thing is, I mean, first of all, I'm very sorry to hear what happened, but I think the text I sent to you was, or the message I sent back to you was, none of us are too big, right? You should always talk to someone, no matter how tough you are. And it's true, because you can consume stuff and consume stuff and consume stuff, and eventually it becomes habit. Funny enough, we were talking about it the other day. You've got to learn to move forward, and that sometimes can be a lot of work, right?
You know what's funny about that is my daughter. And just
Vidya, just to please, just dive in, because otherwise.
I was just about to say to Vidya, if I aim this one at yourself, we look at coping mechanisms, and before we get sort of in our sort of pre-tailored questions that we'd like to ask, we look at coping mechanisms, and everybody has them in every environment. What's your sort of understanding of how that would work in the sort of corporate, structure or commercial space?
Isn't it? We get too busy. We start busying ourselves. Adding to that.
I was just about to say to Vidya, if I We're listening to ourselves. We're listening to ourselves on Clubhouse.
Wasn't me.
Whoever was talking there was an absolute legend.
Sorry, Vidya, carry on.
Yeah.
Sounded like it. Sounded
Sorry,
like
go
it.
for it.
Yeah, I just think that we need to have a little bit of space to talk about those things. We spend our time, working, busying ourselves away, and there's very little room to have those maybe deeper discussions that actually we shy away from. Like already you framed it with, oh, we don't want to get too heavy and we don't want to. And there is that feeling around all this stuff. And actually, it's okay to be like that every so often. It's actually healthy to be a little bit heavy for yourself now and again. And I think sometimes we're not given that permission to express ourselves in that way. And actually, that can stress us out a little bit. When we've really got something on my mind, where is it that we go to have that chat or to talk with? Because friends, it's all banter, and it can be very much on that level. Even work colleagues, to share that stuff. Would you? I'm not sure many people would in their workplace for fear of what might people think or what might people say. It's a difficult one.
But the challenge is modern day life. We all work far too many hours. We all work far too hard. Surely the best place to share it is work, because they may not be your closest friends, but they're the people that you have the most regular interaction, and they see, not necessarily a different side of you, but they see a richer side of you in some respects. So it's interesting you say it's difficult to have that conversation at work. Surely that's the best place to have it in some respects.
But I think with this being somebody senior in a business, and my job is not just me doing my job every day, but it's to make sure that the working environment's right and the people environments, everyone's right. I find that I have a duty of care. Amazingly, I used to be a counsellor. I was a local counsellor, Conservative counsellor, before I went independent. Story for another day. And part of the training of what we did was safeguarding, because we knocked on so many doors. Opening somebody opening a door and checking that they're safeguarding the environment they're in is something that's safe for them is a similar sort of thing that we do in a work capacity. And what's standing around the water cooler is something that hasn't happened for a year. A lot of people, their only interaction with a human being is work.
Yeah.
How do you look at that? And then as somebody that's never, I've never really had any issues with mental health. I find it difficult to understand. I can be empathetic, but I can't put myself in their shoes because I've never had that thought or feeling. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Vidya?
I think anyone who has a mental health issue will never want you to identify with their own experience. Their experience is unique to them. Just that you could just say, you know what, I can't even begin to understand, but I really appreciate that you're sharing that with me. That's enough. Actually, that's enough to allow someone that feeling of acceptance that what they've said is okay. And there's zero judgment in there. And there's zero, I think what we tend to do is, oh, I so understand. And then the person, who's sharing, it becomes about the person who's listening when that's not what that person needs. That person just needs you to go, I can't begin to understand. It must be really challenging for you. I'm really grateful that you shared. And even that is a window of opportunity for that person to go, well, you know what, someone is listening with no judgment. Because I think that's the work thing. Although you might share lots of time and there might be some really supportive leadership going on, that's not everybody's perception in the workplace. They feel they'll be judged, their 360 feedback, their appraisal, how will it affect their job prospects, their career. Mental health still has, unfortunately, it still has that flavour in it. And actually, you wouldn't be human if you didn't have some challenges to your mental health through whatever experience it is.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that it has that kind of work connotation that, we talk all the time about, mental health and we need to be more aware of it. And it's no different from physical health. It's just a fact of life, and 80% of us are affected by it, blah, blah, blah. But you're saying that, despite all that, and despite, the future king of this country sort of heading up charities and all that kind of stuff, despite all that, people at work still go, yeah, but.
Yeah.
So how do, are we ever going to change that? How do we change that? Or that's how it is and try and do the best anyway?
I think it's about really supporting your employees. I'm starting to talk with more workplaces now to say, well, offer wellness in terms of not just exercising and those kind of corporate offerings that are a part of a package. Offer them a session just to get an MOT. I mean, you wouldn't go in your car, keep running it without a service every so often. We are we are machines, and we glitch now and again, and it's okay to glitch, but you just get yourself checked over every so often. There's no harm in that.
And I think you're right. And Ruella, who's just logged in and says good evening. Ruella's a very dear friend of mine. She's a Rec to Rec, a recruiter. Got her own business. She's had, and I hope she wouldn't mind me saying it on here, but she's had challenges along life, same as everyone else. But she's soldiered on and coming out of it. And she is very a mental health advocate in the recruitment space as well. And she does a lot on Clubhouse and all that sort of stuff. So Ruella, absolutely. Thank you for jumping on today. But I think let's have a look at some of these points. And I think this is, I think this is a conversation. We're not going to fix this today. Is probably a better way of looking at this. And we normally jump around. We have some great fun. And I want this to be. I don't want this to be different to normal, because I don't want people to think that they can't come and have a chat to me about it. Because since I put a post on LinkedIn, I think we had 6,000 views or something, and loads of people liked it. And I had 26 conversations since Saturday with people who are by themselves in an environment they can't see their way out of it. We didn't talk about me fixing their mental health. We just had a conversation, and we set up conversation down the road, and just 3 or 4 5-minute conversations, which I think are important. And I just want to open it to the guys that are watching this, that I am somebody that a lot of people see, a lot of people get to see on their videos and podcasts and stuff, or the stuff they see on LinkedIn. And if they do feel that they relate to me and they want to have a conversation, 100% happy to do it. Because, from what happened to my friend on the weekend, he had every opportunity to do exactly that. And he chose a different path for himself. And me wishing or trying to figure out why that happened is I don't see a benefit in it. I would just like to make sure that if someone else was in that situation, that maybe I could identify it. Not that I'm taking responsibility for it, but maybe I can identify it. But at the same token, I can just, because you never know, the people that you talk to a day and you say, "Oh my God, your shoes look lovely," or "That's a very good piece of work today." You don't know what that simple statement can do to change, or as simple as what you did today was absolute crap, and you look horrendous in what you're in. Those you just don't know. It's impossible to tell, right?
Yeah, totally impossible. And I think whatever, regardless, it's always just be kind. You can just be kind to whoever you're interacting with. End of. It doesn't matter. And even if you have something negative to say, just think about how you're framing that. And you just don't know. Appearances are so deceiving, and you cannot tell. I mean, I personally have lost people to suicide, and it's tragic because you wouldn't have known.
Yeah, and I think that's the point, right? So, John, do you want to add something?
No, I was just going to say, it's interesting that you used what happened over the weekend as a catalyst to start conversations, right? And sad what happened at the weekend. It is an opportunity to get the thing out there and talk about it with other people that otherwise wouldn't have done, right? So, but there was something you said as well over the weekend. And I described it to you as the guilt complex. You said, "Oh, if only we'd known, if only." And there's an element of that, to do. And it's not just the extreme case when people take their lives. It's other things as well, where people say, "Oh, if only we'd known." We can all try better, but at the same, I'm also going to contradict myself and say, but none of us truly know, so don't feel guilty about it, right? And there's a great danger that we carry that guilt with us.
Yeah, I think for me, the talk like this, doing this, is my way of me not necessarily balancing it out for me, because I don't feel responsible for this. I feel responsible because I have an opportunity and people that will listen to it. And I think if we do this tonight and it changes one person's life, then even for a minuscule, then it's been 100% worth the time and investment. And we have a platform. Not everybody has a platform. I'm sure there are people watching this or sitting at home that have a much better voice than me or John or even, you know, yourself, Vidya, that have a much better voice but don't have a platform to do it. We do. We owe it. We have a responsibility for this. And I think if we look at, you know, we've written a list here which says stress, anxiety, returning to work, guilt complex, depression, and talking about it. And talking about it, I think, should be at the front. And that's exactly what we're doing. Right, we're talking about it. 3 people that come from different environments. I've got 3 kids. I've got a 16-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 10-year-old. My kids could sit in their room like other people's do, sit in their room and not talk to us, communicate, sit on Instagram and do all that stuff. We eat together. We spend time together. You know, we make sure we go out on walks together. As much as it's a nightmare because they're annoying, I really enjoy it. But we spend time together. Like, we'll sit down in the lounge, and sometimes I say jokingly, you guys just follow us around from room to room. Like, we go to bed at night, Nat and I, and we'll sit with our kids on our bed. But I absolutely love it. And I think that allows, it works for me as well as hopefully it works for the kids. And I think, like Ruella said there, let's try and educate others. This is an education for me. You know, we've got you on here, Vidya, because I'm sure even the stuff that you've said already is so powerful to me that it gives me the opportunity to be able to creatively come up with something that I think could maybe work for others.
Yeah. And I need to add this point, okay, which will help you and help maybe others who have experienced someone taking their life like in that way. Oh, that's
I just got my dinner delivered. Sorry about that. No, I'm eating it. Go away. This is my son, by the way, everybody.
That's one of your followers, right?
Say hello, Theo. Your life.
Guys, do you know what Daddy ate? See?
Oh, go away. No, go away. Go on. So that's my son. He actually has childhood dyspraxia. So he has a statement of work for him as well. So he loves coming up and he loves getting on the camera. So he heard me on camera and he thought he'd come on. But Vidya, sorry, we interrupted you there.
No.
I don't eat fish, you see, and he's just fed me fish.
There you go.
But I've got wine.
Children, you got to love them. I've got a 12-year-old, 10-year-old, and 7-year-old, and I'm just appreciating having a night off from bedtime.
Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity.
You know what? You laugh there. The first people to go to bed in our house are me and Nat.
Yeah, I know.
I go to bed at night, go into my 10-year-old. Make sure you put your book down or put your TV down, turn your TV off before 9 o'clock, and I'm gone.
But not to disappoint you, but teenagers, and they're not following you around; they're following your wallet around. It just happens to be with you at the time, right? Let's be clear. That's the thing with teenagers.
My kids have more bloody money than me.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing with teenagers.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's interesting. Families can be a grounding thing, but they can also add to stress as well, right?
They can add to this mental load. I know for the men that I see, it's about those quieter expectations that they have of themselves, that they've got to look after their family, they've got to be there for them, they've got to be seen, they've got a sense of responsibility. That's a cultural thing and a societal thing as well, towards those duties that they believe they have. And actually that's a mental load for a man to carry, just as motherhood and what comes with it is quite a mental load for women who feel at times a bit pressured with that. That mental load is not one that's necessarily shared, because, isn't it, we just all get on with it and that's what we've got to do. So really, it's we all face that. It's that burden of that mental load that can actually set to start that anxiety, start that depression. And actually, when you get into that space and they're your early warning signals from your body and your mind and everything. And that's your moment to go, you know what, I need some help out here. if you leave it and do not attend to it, it breeds and it grows. And I kind of want to, as I was saying before, I kind of want to share with you that as dreadful and as saddening as suicide is, it's always built on a person's strategy to find happiness. When someone wants to do away with themselves, it's because when I don't have to deal with the world, I'll be happy. They're not here to experience that happiness, but that's the trapping of the thinking. So if that helps you, Ant, in some way, reconcile that feeling of I should have known and I should have done this and I should have done that. Sometimes we can't, that person has got into that cycle in their thinking, and yes, a pattern interrupt might be helpful, but when a person's in that space, it can sometimes be the challenge for them as well to snap out of it. It's not so simple. So I'd always implore anybody who's feeling a little bit, got a bit anxious, bit depressed, bit stressed out, and they feel it, they can feel it. Speak to somebody, just have a chat. A friend, a colleague, somebody impartial like myself, who just has got nothing to do with your dynamics at all. Sometimes that's actually really liberating, because you just go, yeah, I'm really going to just let rip now because I can.
Yeah. Sorry, go, John.
No. So it's interesting. You said let go and let rip, and I used to play a lot of sport. I was never as good as Ant, who's a multiple world champion. Just I'd say it's if you saying it, Ant.
I read that.
I used to play a lot of sport, and that was fantastic. On a Saturday afternoon, knocking lumps off people on a rugby pitch was brilliant. And I actually still miss that. I can't play it anymore. My knees just won't even go in the right direction. Too fat, too slow, too old. Absolutely. But I actually still miss it, and I still miss that release.
Yeah.
So I do wonder if we're all becoming more sedentary. And that's been accelerated with COVID-19. Yes. Okay. Go to your local park or common on a Saturday or Sunday. It's swarming with people.
Yeah.
And then it stops again on a Monday morning. It doesn't happen for another weekend. So I do wonder if that release has been taken away as well, and if that's not helpful.
I totally agree with that. Sorry, I was
No,
just saying, I totally agree with that. Like I'm a somatics coach, and that's all about your embodied experience of your life. Okay, so when you feel stuck up here, you feel stuck in your body as well. You feel, I don't really want to go out, I don't really want to do anything. And it's a chicken and egg thing. When they talk about, if your mental health, get out there, it's really good to be in it, because you are mobilized, you feel mobilized then up here in your circumstances, in your life. It's that kind of oneness that actually going out and about can provide for us. And I so agree with you, John. A lot of it is our increasingly sedentary lifestyle is not creating the conditions to help us, really.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at that. You just hear my wife. Jesus. I apologise if anyone heard it. But that's my wife burying one of my children in the back garden. So we shouldn't laugh because it's not laugh. But you know what? That it helps, right? And you know what's interesting about having Ruella on this on the side, and is that what I've found is the more we talked about this, I've always been a firm believer that success is not limited. Everybody can be successful. Everyone can have good health. Everyone can be well. Everyone can have enough money to pay their bills, or everyone can have whatever they want. It's not limited. So the thing that like Ruella's doing and a load of ladies that have been doing or people, I should say, recruiters, is helping other recruiters. And Ruella does it actually with a couple of other recruiters, helping them. Taken off the fact that recruitment used to be a real cutthroat. Don't talk to me. Don't look at my jobs and don't do this because, I can't be successful if you're successful. But that since we started talking about mental health in the workplace, a lot of people have come forward and said, look, I can actually really do some help. And lots of great people, ambassadors like Ruella, like myself in different sort of areas have really gone, right, we can actually help you from this. It's not no skin off my nose. It's not going to affect my business, me helping you. Maybe it'll help you along the way. But I think the more that we talk about it, the more we bring it out, allows people to come forward that can spend their time, it costs money to do all this stuff as well. Excuse me. Do have the budget to be able to, not just in money, but in time and capacity and knowledge, put that across what platforms they have. And Ali, good to see you, mate, this evening. Good, thanks for joining. Good evening. What organisations do you recommend for mental health? And I'll just say something else, but I'm interested to hear what you say. Somebody supporting your mental health could be as simple as the person that sat next to you, right? It could be the person that understands what to say, when to say, and how to say it. And that can be just a little bit of the triggers that you pop off. But I'd imagine, in my company, we have people that look at that. The people that work for me directly, I have to make sure that they're in a safe environment, they're happy, and, things are not getting out of shape. But what would you recommend you guys in this capacity? We'll start off with you, Vidya, and we'll move up.
Well, I think most workplaces, all workplaces should have at least one mental health first aider who's educated about this stuff. Just as you have a physical first aider who goes, just can spot the signs, knows what to do, you need a mental health first aider who's just tuned into what might be signs for that person. I definitely recommend that as a starting point. And actually, the more workplace schemes to offer help and support, because at the moment we are in this space of, going to the doctor, being referred, going from there to be given a course of CBT on the NHS. And actually, that's an online service that doesn't feel very bespoke. For some people, that's not the solution because it's so removed from what they actually probably really need, and they want to be heard. They need a voice. That's not always available to everybody. The solutions are the one solution doesn't fit all. There needs to be a variety of offerings for people, so they've got options, and I just think that's so important.
What do you think, John?
I mean, what organisations recommend? I mean, all of them and any of them. I mean, it's not just organisations, right? If you're on a bus and someone falls off and breaks their arm, you'll all rush over and help them. But if you're on a bus and the person sitting next to you suddenly bursts into tears, what do you do? It should be the same.
Yeah.
The problem is you kind of feel like you're invading personal territory, right? But just the simple, is everything okay? Do you want to talk?
Yeah, I just cry for fun.
Yeah. I think, John, that really raises an interesting question, which I raised on my own podcast this week. We say, "How are you?" but we don't really want to know. Sometimes we just we expect an "I'm fine." And actually, if somebody really told us how they feel, would we manage that? Would we be able to hold space for that conversation?
No, you're absolutely right. No, but what I mean is at least start the process.
Yes.
Okay, maybe. Yeah. But we don't, because if someone falls off a bus and breaks their arm, it's pretty obvious. If someone's sitting on a bus and crying, for whatever reason, right? It is a much more personal thing, but potentially they still need the same amount of help or even more. But it's actually, society has bred us to not kind of go into that territory. It has to be kind of someone I suspect the same person doing the same thing, to Ant's point, next to the water cooler in the office would get a different reaction. So to Ali's point, who would you recommend? Anyone. Just talk to someone, and Vidya, you were saying sometimes a stranger is better than someone just prepared to talk, I think is the reality,
But don't go just talking to strangers in the park, guys, if you're watching this.
Or on the bus.
To just to touch base on that video before you get involved, the world's changed, right? I was standing in Tesco's on my way back home today from my dad's birthday. We were social distancing, and I was standing in Tesco, and I was standing there, and there was with my son, and my son's walking around touching him and he's playing with it. And then this guy comes and he goes, "Oh, I want to get one of those." I'm like, "Do you want me to get it for you?" And he went, "No, I want to get it, but you're in my way." I'm like, You're like 3 meters away from me. He goes, "I just don't want to get too close." I'm like, in my head, I'm like, you've come out to Tesco's, but then I'm thinking, well, maybe the guy doesn't want to get that close. So these people, I shouldn't say that. These people, if you've got mental health issues or you're in a situation where you don't feel comfortable, now everybody's further away from you. The person's not sitting next to you on a bus because they can't. They're sitting over there on the bus, crying by themselves. That's a lot harder. And I know that it shouldn't be more difficult, but it is more difficult to stand up and go over to somebody and sit next to them and go, "Are you okay? Do you need to have a conversation?" You know, we're in this world now where after this, people have got masks on. You can't tell if somebody's upset. You could before walk past someone and go, "That person's upset. Are you okay?" You know, I saw somebody the other day in the petrol station, their card didn't work and it was like £5 and I ended up paying for him. And the woman was like next to tears, you know, and you don't know what her situation is. Do you know what I mean? A simple "Are you okay?" But we've been pushed away from that. So we're going over our 30 minutes, guys. So we do apologize, but we're going to crack on for a little bit anyway, just because I think this is important. And you know, those people that are being pushed away, that distance has got away from each other. Yeah. What do we do? Are we going to be able to combat that? Or are we just going to end up having to rethink the wheel? You look like you're going to talk there, John.
For me, I would say, that is the price we're going to pay for this period of time. We have lost connectivity, which is why it's even more important for us to wreck that up in an overextended way. We have to reach out. If we haven't heard from a friend, haven't checked in with someone we kind of know and connect with, just pick up the phone. Just send them a text, just so they know you're thinking of them. Because, this is sadly the legacy, actually, that COVID will leave us with a little bit for some time to come. That connectivity issue is going to take some time.
That connectivity was under strain because everyone, the number of times I've sat in a restaurant, watched a family walk in and they've all just got their phones out and sat there. And I've just wanted to go over to them and go, "Why don't you all go home, order a takeaway and save yourself £100 and each go and sit in a separate room and not talk to each other because you're wasting your time." And you see it all the time. So it was fractured anyway. It may well be broken now. But there was a lady I know, she met up with an old friend. She hadn't seen him in years. He moved away and then she moved and they ended up both living in the same town. And it just an old school friend kind of thing, and met up. And she said it was the social, she'd lost the kind of just the social chit chat. She was really struggling. And she said the other thing she noticed, she couldn't look him in the eye. She couldn't do eye to eye contact. She spent the last year, like the rest of us, it's a year ago today since we went into lockdown, spent the last year looking at a little square screen. And of course, you can't look at someone's eyes, no matter how hard you try. It's just a moving face and there you go. And a slightly dodgy background. But the reality is, looking someone in the eye when you're talking to them, doing small talk, that's a skill we're going to have to not learn again, but it's kind of one we're going to have to blow the dust off a bit, right? So if we can't even do that, heaven forbid, back to my, person on the bus in tears kind of philosophy, right? It's going to be tough.
Yeah. And that's why we just have to make that effort, even if it's human nature. And actually, I've observed, as you all will have, when your children have gone back to school, they have been away from their own peers, their own social scene. And actually, they have snapped back with a sense of, I'm going to get on with this, and I am going to just go about my business, however hard that is. And I think we can learn so much from the kids. Actually, we will get back to some sense of normal, but it would be a new, different, adjusted normal. And I hope that we've learnt some skills actually through connection. I myself, I've made some really strong connections, and I've never even met people like. But
present company excluded. You know what's funny about that? I've got a friend that's a behavioural scientist in Hawaii when I lived in Maui, and she was saying that it's 12 seconds. 12 seconds is the time of contact that you need with somebody on a regular occurrence to recharge your batteries and to get that net flow of energy, if you believe in that sort of stuff, which I do. And just cuddling somebody for 10, and I do it with my kids every so often. I'm like, you haven't seen anybody, you haven't been out, let's just cuddle. And it's awkward as hell with some of them, but others it's great. And if you've got a partner and you do cuddle and you do all those other things, and that and if 12 seconds is long enough, then but it is important, and that touch and that time that you spend with somebody, just a hand on the shoulder for a period of time is almost as is 50 times more rewarding than what you're going to get on a video. We haven't met each other. John and I haven't seen each other for a long time, but when I see John, that we'll be close enough for that energy to be able to transform and move forward. But people don't have that. A lot of people don't have that, and they'll find it really uncomfortable to get back to that environment, unless you're on Tinder or anything like that.
I think
that's what the 12 seconds was about. Gotcha. With sociable animals, with sociable animals, but with tactile animals as well, right?
Yeah, touch is important. I mean, my dogs, we've got 2 pugs and a German pointer. The German pointer gets out of Louis's bed in the morning, goes outside, has a wee, and comes up and gets into our bed and has a cuddle with us. And he gets separation anxiety if he's not with us. You know what I mean? And when he comes in, he wants to cuddle, and he jumps up and he needs to have a cuddle and he needs to get on with it. And even cuddling the dog, even though he's as big as a human, is nice. And my little pugs as well. I love to give them squeezes.
Yeah, and our brains are wired for sociability and tactile interaction. So yes, we might have lost it, but it's still important. Like, here I am sitting on a screen, but I'm still looking at you guys. It may not be face to face and in contact, but I'm still connecting with you by the sheer depth of our conversation. So going back to that original point right at the beginning, where all those deep conversations, sometimes they're good to have. They feed us in a way that we are not being fed right now.
It's different. It is different. Well, this is a subject I think we could talk about forever. We didn't get anywhere near our subject points. I do like to keep it as a certain length, just because I like people to get all the way to the end and see the randomness that comes out. I apologise for John, and I think to be honest, it's actually been an absolute pleasure, Vidya. I would like us to potentially look at. Even if we do John once a month through Seedcast, we offer a mental health you look at, and even though we had subject points and we looked to talk it, there is clearly lots to talk in this subject.
Yeah.
I find normally I'm a million miles an hour and I'll push for it and I'll joke on this sort of stuff about it. I'm being more tailored with what I'm talking about, because although the other stuff we talk about is important, this is life-changing, and the ramifications of misinformation or misunderstanding can be life-threatening. So hopefully everybody got something out of this. I know I did. Vidya, it's been an absolute pleasure today. John, I appreciate you bringing Vidya on. I know she was your 5th choice, but that's fine. And no, I'm joking. I'm absolutely joking. But that's a perfect example about making somebody not feel great about themselves. We're obviously joking, because you've been an absolute star today. I think
you bash my self-esteem and then build me back up.
In the business we call that a shit sandwich. So Vidya, what you did really well today was this, by the way, and what you did badly was this, and then what you need, we can really help them with. But that's important. And you should be able to, I think if you can bring a certain amount of comedic entertainment to this, it makes it a little bit more comfortable. Some people find it hard. When I get a really bad situation, like what happened on the weekend, I have been in lots of bad situations. I'm totally calm and I'm very organized, and I'm the person that can, deal with it. Afterwards, I will have a cry and go through what I need to. But some people, not everybody's like that. So there has to be different ways of people dealing with it. I like to find entertainment in things. I find that, you should be able to have a little bit of a giggle and a little bit of a laugh, but try not always to be at someone else's expense. So I'll apologize.
Totally. And just to add on that, any of my clients, it's important to deal with the heavy stuff with a lightness of touch. You have to have a laugh with it. Otherwise, you're feeding yourself more of the same. lighten up a little bit in dealing with the stuff. It's all right.
Perfect. So, John, again, as always, you've been an absolute star, an absolute legend. Thank you for dragging Vidya on here. It only took her 25 minutes to get her screens organised, but she has benefits in other areas. So we will put our contact details on here, guys. Not our phone numbers, but please feel free to log on to our LinkedIn's and have a conversation with us. For everybody that are watching this, this is a pleasure for us. This is actually a joy for us to come and do Seedcast every Tuesday night at 7. Sorry, John, you were going to spoil my...
I was going to say, Vidya, what's your website?
vividoutcomes.co.uk.
We will put it in there. I did actually look at it. But no, you've been an absolute star today. Thank you for putting up for myself and John. I am not always the easiest to deal with on this, but I've helped them. I've pulled myself back a little bit. But guys, it is Tuesday the 23rd of March. And this is Seedcast. You're watching this, seed-cast.com. You can watch it live for our websites or across every platform known to man. We are on Clubhouse now. John finally got himself an iPhone, so welcome to the 21st century, John. It is 7:42. A pleasure to everybody. People that were on here, thank you very much. Vidya, John, you're welcome.
Thank you.
And I'll see you soon.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.